When you were younger and you were riding around the streets with your friends on your pedal bikes, did you ever stop and look at your bike and just wish so badly that you could put an engine in it and turn it into a motorbike? Because for me, every time I looked at my pedal bike, that's something I thought about doing. Now, if you're a bit older than me, then you may have actually got the opportunity to do that and take your bike on the road without any problem. For me, growing up in the 90s and the 2000s, it was not so easy as just getting an engine kit, slapping it on a pedal bike, and off you go. Because, one, kits weren't so readily available, and two, as there's a lot of laws and things that changed, I think, in the early 80s, that if you stick an engine on a pedal bike, it's no longer classed as a pedal bike, it's a motorized vehicle, which means you cannot take it on the road without the correct documentation and insurances, which I'm not even sure you can get with any of these kits. However, things have now moved on a bit, and whilst the law is still the same about putting an engine on a pedal bike and taking it on the road, kits are now very easy to get hold of because we have a thing called the internet. And because of the internet, that means things are very accessible these days, which means I have ordered the cheapest motorbike engine kit you have ever seen from the one and only TEMU. With this being from TEMU, I do not know what to expect because they give you very limited information other than what's in the box. So, let's open the box, let's see what we got, and let's see if we can put all of this on a bike. So, we have got one very shiny, albeit cheap sprocket. One very teeny tiny engine. Cables. Sprocket fixings. Parts. Very badly painted petrol tank. Look at the orange peel on that. Carb, coil, and HT lead, brake lever, chain guard, chain tensioner, teeny tiny exhaust, and chain. Okay, on first inspection, there is not that many parts, and they have given me an instruction booklet, so this should be a breeze. One thing that is immediately concerning, though, is it looks like when the engine was painted, they have literally painted the sprocket, and I can't seem to get that to move. Even if I push the clutch, that doesn't seem to move. Now, that's a little bit concerning, but we'll see if it works anyway. We will deal with that later on, because I ordered this kit back in November. It has been sat in the box here in the workshop, waiting for me to do something with it, but obviously I've been a bit busy and a bit distracted. But now is the time to get this done, because I think it's time I had a bit of fun. But even with its potential issues, look how teeny tiny that little 80cc engine is. And now that you've seen the engine and all the components that are going to go into this, it's probably time I show you the bike that I'm fitting it to. And it is here, a Rally something or other. Now, this bike is very basic, but it's got good tyres, good brakes, everything works, pedals go round. But most importantly, it has got enough space in there for me to hopefully fit the engine. It has also got Shimano brakes, which are good. And it's a Rally, so it's not even like it's some sort of cheap Chinese knockoff, unless Rally is a cheap Chinese knockoff these days, but Rally has got some heritage. So my selection process for the bike for this project was super simple. Needed to be cheap and it needed to be not too far away, and I picked up that less than 5 miles from where I live for 20 quid. So I think that worked out quite well. So now with all the introduction out the way, let's go through these instructions and start building it. So in this very quality and not cheap at all instruction booklet, we have a step-by-step guide. And step 1 is, or step 1, 2, 3 and 4 is installing the sprocket rubbers that will hold the sprocket on the rear wheel. Let's go. Okay, so mega fiddly, but this is the gist of how it works. You've got one rubber on the outside, which the sprocket is attached to. The bolts go through the wheels to this other rubber and into these shims, and then they attach on the outside. Now, I've got some adjusting to do to get it to all line up nicely and obviously make that so it is centered on the axle, but that is the gist of how it works. Now, next step is to tighten all of these bolts down in a star pattern to stop it moving around and make sure it is tightened equally. Now, I don't have any shims or anything, so I am using this thing. So it seems to be pretty centered. Let's hope it stays that way while I tighten it down. With all those tightened up and looking exactly like the instructions, that is on. I mean, is it straight? I don't know. Or are all the bolts equal? Not entirely sure. The instructions don't give you any torque specs or anything, so we're just rolling with it. But that looks slightly out. So my shim thingy obviously did not work because it compresses. Why did I not think of that? I mean, I measured the space and then as soon as I started tightening it, it started squeezing. So that went straight out the window. But the fact that they actually state in the instructions, here's how it looks when it's complete. Nice, tight, and true. I can't even, like, that's nothing. Laughable. Anyway, moving on. Next step is to mount the engine to the frame. Frame is over there. Engine is there. Let's mount them up together and see if this actually starts going to plan. Okay, so I put the bike up on the bench. I have actually put it in the clamp. This is where one of those motorbike benches would be really handy for the workshop, but we got to make do with what we got. So let's throw the engine in. The engine has got mounting brackets here, and obviously the sprocket is this side. So it's going to mount into the frame something like this. So while the rear bracket sits quite nicely around that bar, the front one is a bit thick. So there is like a spacer plate, and I think if I move the engine up and slot that in, then I can use this U-bolt to go around it and hold it in. Let's try that. Something along those lines. Okay, with the engine now bracketed onto the bike, next up is this teeny tiny carb to go on the teeny tiny engine. Nice and simple for the carb. Simply open up this bracket. So it's loose-ish. And I messed up because I cannot get the carb on with it in the frame. I mean, maybe I can take the airbox off. Little air filtery thing. Don't know. Let's try that. Okay, carb is on. I did have to undo the bolt to move the engine up slightly. Didn't want to have to do that because obviously I wanted it nice and low down for the chain. But obviously it comes with a chain tensioner and stuff, so I'll just have to work with it as it goes. Okay, next step is the controls. Throttle and the clutch. Now, throttle is easy. We just whip this off, get the cable down, fit it in there, and obviously fit the throttle cable here. But the clutch, I may have to remove the rear brake because, I mean, you can't really have two levers over that side. I mean, you could, but it'll look a bit silly. But we'll give it a go. And as you can see, the design quality is so good on this, they forgot to leave a hole for the throttle cable to go through. Okay, throttle is on and working. You can hear that snapping back. Cool. Next thing, clutch. So, clutch cable needs to end up in here, threaded through this, up to there. Although that seems extraordinarily loose. Maybe that's broken. So, clutch cable is going to thread through this guide, into the lever, like so. Okay, clutch is fitted, need a bit of cable management. I've rolled with the double handle assembly because we need rear brakes and the clutch has to go on somewhere. So, a bit odd, but we're going to roll with it. Let's throw that on. Next step, petrol tap into petrol tank. Okay, tank mounted, then I need to do the coil. So it's probably going to have to go here somewhere because these wires need to reach there and this needs to reach the spark plug. So probably going to go about there. Unfortunately, the kit that comes with it doesn't really work because the frame's too thick. So it's going to be a cable tie job. So, spark plug goes in, like so. HT will go on top of the spark plug, and with these cables, it's blue to blue and black to black, according to the instructions. Okay, so it is coming together. These instructions are very vague and pretty much useless. The parts are not very well made and quite fiddly, but we are getting there. It hasn't actually taken me that long to get to this stage. Now the next step, I need to put the rear wheel on. I need to loop the chain around the sprocket because the next stage is the tensioner and actually putting the chain on to the front sprocket as well. So let's start doing that. Okay, chain and cover and everything are back on. That was a lot harder than it needed to be because at first the chain was way too long. Then I got it almost right, but it was still too long. And then I took an extra link out and it was just too short. But after moving the engine down and kind of squashing that a bit, the chain fits. I mean, it is pretty damn tight, but we just need this thing to work for the time being. Next step, the exhaust, and this should be the last step. Exhaust on. Damn it. Okay, the exhaust is on and we got it running up. Not sure I like it towards the fuel tank and blowing exhaust gases at my hands, but that is the only way it's going to fit because it just didn't fit down there because of the pedal. And that is everything all connected up. Now, why they give me this? Because there's no information on what that connects to. Those color wires are different to what I've actually got down there. So I don't think that connects up. Also, didn't put the chain guard on because the instructions are the most vague thing I have ever seen in my life. Install chain guard. Where? And there was also a Speedo with absolutely no instructions on how to fit it. So we're going to leave the Speedo alone. So other than a little bit of cable management to make sure nothing is jammed in the wheels, we are done, which means fuel and take it out and see if we can get it to run. Cable management done. I used some bracket thing that was in the box, don't know what it was for, to hold them there. And I just used the last one just to wrap around there. So we now have no loose hanging wires. Okay, so it has taken me a hell of a lot longer to finish that than I actually thought because although that kit is made to go on a bicycle, it's not made to go on that exact bicycle. So everything fits, but it doesn't fit. But we have actually made it all fit on the bike. So let's give it a couple of tests before I try and start it. Okay, so with the clutch in, the bike should still pedal to some degree. With the clutch out, doesn't really go. So it feels like it's working. That actually works. I'm actually blown away by that. I mean, it's not the easiest thing to get going. You've got to pedal and then let go of the clutch to get it started. And the throttle doesn't really seem to do much of anything. But it works. It runs. You can stop on it. And then obviously you let go, you pull in the clutch. And it generally cuts out then until you start pedaling again. I'm mind blown. I didn't think when I bought an engine kit off TEMU that this would actually even potentially work. Now, I am a bit confused because I thought it was going to be a kickstart, but I guess the kickstart is when you pedal it. There is no kill switch, so you just got to force it to cut out, basically stall it. And for some unknown reason, the gears on the actual bike aren't working, which means it can only pedal it in first. Now, I think it's got something to do with the tank sitting on the cables, so I'll have a look at that in a minute, but it actually works. Okay, so it does need one minor adjustment, and that is right there, because when I'm pedaling, it's hitting on that. That's really annoying. So, angle grinder. Okay, problem solved. After angle grinding and smoothing it off a bit with a Dremel, that's now not catching anymore. I have actually managed to switch one of the gears, but this one seems to be broken maybe in the mechanism rather than something I've actually done. So we won't worry about that. Okay, that's enough of that for now, because that's pretty fun. That's pretty amusing, and it's all good and fun, me playing it up and down in the unit and out in the car park. But if I actually take it out on the road, then I am all of a sudden breaking the law. So we're definitely not going to do that on camera. I also definitely need to work on my balancing skills, because that was the first time I've been on a pedal bike in like 16 years. But that has definitely put a smile on my face with just how ridiculous it is. It sounds ridiculous. The exhaust fumes shoot up in your face. It pops and splutters literally right up your nose. That is just fun. And looking back now, as much as I said I wish I could have done that as a child, I am glad I didn't now, because I probably would have ended up dead, or at least seriously injured, because there's not a lot of control over that thing. But that is definitely a childhood dream that I can now tick off my list. Might have taken me 32 years, or almost 32 years, to be able to do it, but I've done it. Now, you might be wondering what it costs to get a kit like that, and I told you earlier I bought the bike for £20, and I actually got the entire kit with everything, you know, the engine and all the parts that came with it, for just £51 on TEMU. They're normally about 80 something pound, but I did have some discounts, and I got a price adjustment which brought it all down to 51 in total. And that was back in November, so it was Christmas time. There was a lot of offers flying about. But for £71 to do a project build, enjoy yourself for the day, and tick off a childhood dream, I think that was pretty fun. Now, if you've enjoyed this video, then make sure you give it a thumbs up. If you think I did a good job with that, then let me know in the comments. If you think it's the most ridiculous thing you've ever seen, then make sure you let me know in the comments. And also, if you think I should do more ridiculous builds like petrol-powered pedal bikes, then make sure you let me know. And if you want to see me do more stuff like that and all the other things that I'm usually getting up to here in the workshop, then make sure you hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss out. And until the next video, thank you so much for watching.